Hey, it's Mike Hambright with FlipNerd.com. Welcome back for another exciting VIP interview where I interview successful real estate investing experts and entrepreneurs in our industry to help you learn and grow. Today, I'm joined by Iris Veneracion, a California real estate investor and co-founder of investCLUB for Women, which she's going to tell you she had a hard time keeping the men out. But Iris is going to tell us all about a framework that she teaches others to help achieve success, whether you're just getting started or you're trying to kind of reground yourself. And she calls it within her club the 60-day challenge. And it's a way to force people to take action. And so if you've struggled with taking action or getting back to the basics where maybe you started at, this is going to be a great show because she's going to go over her framework. So thanks for being with us today. Before we get started with Iris, though, let's take a moment to recognize our featured sponsors. RealtyMogul.com is an online marketplace for real estate investing, connecting borrowers and capital from accredited and institutional investors. Get a rehab loan fast and close in as little as 10 days. Rates start as low as 9%. We'd also like to thank National Real Estate Insurance Group, the nation's leading provider of insurance to the residential real estate investor market. From individual properties to large-scale investors, National Real Estate Insurance Group is ready to serve you. Please note, the views and opinions expressed by the individuals in this program do not necessarily reflect those of FlipNerd.com or any of its partners, advertisers, or affiliates. Please consult professionals before making any investment or tax decisions, as real estate investing can be risky. Hey, Iris, welcome to the show.
Hey, Mike. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Glad you're here. So we were talking for a little bit beforehand, and I'm excited to talk about this. I really, we do a lot of shows, as those that are listening know. We're coming up on 200 shows almost in just 15 months or so. But I really love the shows that are like a framework or educational, like a lesson. And I know you've had great success teaching other people this framework that you created, so I'm excited to talk about that today.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for having me again.
Yeah. But hey, before we get started though, tell us about you. I know, like myself and a lot of other people, you're a corporate refugee that once worked for a large company and then found your way to be, self-employed and all the fun and games that entails.
That's right. I like to call it fun employed, right?
Okay. Yep.
I came from a corporate background. My background is mortgage finance, and I just remember back over 10 years ago when mortgage was going crazy, I just realized I read a book called Rich Dad Poor Dad, which I know a lot of investors did, and I realized I didn't want to work for the man anymore, so I wanted to do something for myself, and I was making a lot of money for my corporation, and why couldn't I do that for me? And so amongst 16-hour days, 6 days a week, I had a friend of mine approach me and say, "Hey, do you want to flip a house?" And I'm like, "What is that?" And obviously I have a mortgage background, so I have a little bit of real estate knowledge, and she's like, "We got to go find a house, that's where we can add value, and we'll make it pretty and sell it for more money." I'm like, "Let's do it." And I remember this was back in 2003. I made all the mistakes buying this house. I overpaid for it, probably overdid it, tried to do all the work myself while I was working my W-2. And I told myself, if I could just make a couple $1,000s flipping this house, I can get out of this mess and I would be happy. And, I mentioned a couple $1,000s because I know some people that I've talked to in the past, they're like, if I can just break even or, not lose money. I just wanted to make a little bit of money and see if I wanted to keep doing this. Right. And it turned out, again, this was in 2003, and the market was going crazy, and it was almost like you could mistake. And it turned out, after working that, we actually made a lot of money. And I was hook, line, and sinker. I'm like, this is amazing. Yeah. And so shortly after that first flip where I made all my mistakes and luckily was able to get out with a decent profit, I'm like, there's something here about this real estate thing. And it was exactly what Robert Kiyosaki had talked about in his book about creating your own business. And so I decided to quit my corporate job, which was a big leap, but I did it anyway. And I knew I didn't want to, at that point, I knew I didn't want to burn any of my bridges. Turned out a lot of people in my corporate job turned out to be my initial partners and funders of many of my deals. So it's good to have those relationships. And I knew confidently that, for those of you that are maybe thinking about leaving your job, I knew I had the skill set and stuff. So if I wanted to come back, I could.
Yeah.
And sometimes you just have to take that leap of faith and see where you land.
Absolutely.
And just go for it, especially in this business.
Yeah, and a big part of this is, because I'm sure you're going to talk about this or allude to it during the program today, is the role that confidence plays. And for a lot of real estate investors, after the deals happened one time, or certainly a couple times, your confidence level just goes through the roof, and you see it kind of come full circle, and then you kind of get it. Up until that point, most real estate investors, even though there's people all over the planet doing it, they question whether it'll work because maybe there's something else to it, and so confidence is obviously a big part of that. So I'm sure that helped you make the leap.
Yes, absolutely. And I think a big part of that for me as well was having someone, like a partner, someone who could lead me through it.
Yeah.
So I didn't have to do this alone. And I'm like a huge proponent of that. That people, they'll take classes and they'll do these things. They'll hear some guru talk about some way how to make money in real estate, but they're alone. They don't know how to ask for help.
Right.
They don't have anyone to actually lead the way. And in this situation, when I actually left my job, I had someone who wasn't necessarily the biggest expert in the field, but someone who had done more than I had done at that time and really helped me through the process. And I think that is a huge confidence builder as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes, this can be I say this all the time, so people that watch all the shows are going to hear this as a repeat, but, this can be a really lonely business if you let it. And it's good to have a partner or a friend or a spouse or whatever that sees it the same way as you do. So, because it's so easy to get doubt in this business, and it's so easy to get rid of that doubt by having somebody to just kind of shake you every once in a while and say, just move on, just keep going.
Yeah, you really nailed it, Mike. You're absolutely right. It's going to be a totally lonely business. And I ask people, I'm like, do you want to be a lone ranger? Or do you want to play on a team?
Yeah.
It's a lot more fun.
Yeah, for sure. Well, before we started recording here, you were telling me a really interesting story about, going to a RIA club and feeling like it was the good old boys club. And so then you took your ball and went to another playground and played somewhere else. So tell us more about how you started your club, or how that kind of came about.
Interesting. I'm sorry, what?
How that came about,
It's pretty interesting. Back then I was trying to get all the real estate education I could. And, nowadays it's really awesome. You have like these great online platforms like this show, Flip Nerd.
Yeah.
And back then all we had were RIAs, right? So you physically had to go to these clubs and find out, where they were, where they met. It was almost like the secret society, but once you were in, you could figure out, where these things were held. And I was very, very much interested in real estate. Obviously, I was able to do that first flip, and I was just hungry for information. And real estate clubs are a great source of information. All of them are.
Yeah.
And so I remember going to this one club here in Orange County. I'm from Southern California. And there was a great speaker, and I remember I just wanted to meet him at the end of the meeting. And it was so funny because I walked up and all of a sudden I saw him just surrounded by like 8 guys, 8 alpha males. And I'm not very tall. And so I just remember like doing like this little dance, trying to sneak into the circle so I could say hello and introduce myself. And it just wasn't possible. And at that point, I was there with my partner friend, who also so happened to be a woman. And I'm like, we got to do something about this. I'm sure there are women out there that want to invest, but, it felt like a good old boys club. And I'm like, what can we do? Not that there's anything wrong with that, because, it's been established for many, many years, but what can we do to make it a little more welcoming for the women? And so we created our business model, and we wanted to focus on the niche of women, because I knew women wanted to be financially independent. I knew women definitely can do it.
Yeah.
And I wanted to create a place that was welcoming and more collaborative versus competitive, and someplace where, again, they don't have to come and feel intimidated. So as the story goes, our first meeting was about 30 women, and I was so surprised. I'm like, I didn't know. I probably knew like maybe 7 or 10 of them.
Yeah.
10 of them were like my friends, and these other 20 women showed up. And I'm like, I was so surprised. I'm like, wow, there really is an interest here.
Yeah.
By our second meeting, our first guy showed up, and I just
Was he trying to disguise himself, dressed up as a woman?
No. No, he came as a guy, actually. And so the joke was, well, guys are welcome. You just have to come in a skirt. And, some guys actually took that on and showed up at the club in a skirt, jokingly. But of course, we let them in because, our platform was primarily, about education and creating a sense of community and collaboration and having a good speaker. And of course, many of our speakers were guys that were experts and stuff like that. And before you knew it, we couldn't keep the guys. The guys just wanted to come. And, we have kind of a fun, casual, crazy environment, a little more playful and exciting than your standard real estate club where it can be so boring and everyone's like so serious. We try to make it fun and playful so people remember the experience as well as the education.
Yeah.
And so I can probably say we're, of all the RIAs in the area, we probably have the most women that come to our club, and the guys are, they're getting word of it, so they're coming too.
They're welcome too, yeah. Yeah.
It's good. We welcome everyone.
Yep. Awesome. So I know a big part of, this is what entrepreneurs do. You see something, you see an opportunity to do something different, which you did, and then you obviously went and started your club and created, at least from your perspective, a better mousetrap. And I think that's fantastic. I think there's a lot of women that feel intimidated like you do at meetings, and you can kind of sense it when you go to RIA Club meetings. Typically, they're predominantly male, unless it's the female is a spouse of somebody that they drugged to the meeting, But no, I think that's fantastic, and I know again, I'm excited to talk about the framework of your 60-day challenge, because so much of success in real estate investing, really in anything, is just taking action. Right? There's so many people that the problem is the education side of the real estate industry is a huge business, and it does well whether somebody ever takes action or not. But to be successful, obviously, you've got to take action. And so, kind of tell us about why. I mean, I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, but I'm assuming some of what I just said is why you created that program to help people kind of get out of the gate. Let's kind of tell us how that came about, or you're kind of charged to help people rather than just kind of have a club.
Yeah. So I had this real estate club we started back in 2007, and I started seeing a common thing occur. And, we had a lot of people come to our meetings, get the education, maybe sign up for a class here and there. Or I was meeting a lot of people that were coming through our doors that had come from big platform coaching programs that had paid like $40,000, $50,000, $60,000, and I would talk to them and I'd be like, oh, well, how many deals have you done? Have you done any deals? And what was surprising to me was that it was always a resounding no. I haven't done anything.
Yeah.
And so, as a club owner, and looking at my community, I wanted to create a community that was in action, that actually did deals and actually fulfilled their desire of being in real estate, which is to have freedom, more time, and make money. Why are we in this, right? And so I thought deeply about this, and I'm like, how can we create a better program where people would actually take action versus just sit there in class, digest the information, and always feel that they need more? So what can we do to make them take action? And so I developed this framework, and it's called the 60-day challenge, and it's something we do here in Southern California. But I think, all the things that the framework in which we created it, and with the things that people have to do week after week, can really help any investor that maybe has an educational background but just hasn't done anything yet. So if you want, I can just talk about...
Yeah, let's talk about it at a high level. Yeah, I don't want to steal the thunder from your program, and we'll tell everybody how they can learn more about it. But just I think the framework will help people whether they are able to come participate in your club or not. So I appreciate you sharing it.
Sure. So, the premise, again, behind the 60-day challenge is really to take action, get out of your comfort zone, work in a team, and, of course, close a deal. And in that process, when you're out of your comfort zone, you totally build confidence. And what's really surprising to me, or what I always hear all the time, is people already know the stuff. They've taken enough classes. It's somehow downloaded somewhere back there in their mind, but they never have the opportunity to use it. They know what they have to do, but they don't actually use it. And it's incredible that once they just use that little tiny piece, it opens up everything.
Yeah.
So framework number one, you go there, you making calls. This is huge. It's so basic, but this is huge. This is a people business, and this is something we iterate in our club, in our community. This is a relationship business. So you know what? You need to talk to people. And so second thing, writing offers. Before you can write an offer, you need to be able to evaluate a property. So again, our framework is about talking to people, then they learn how to evaluate, and then they must start writing offers.
Yep.
Now, this framework, everyone knows this. I haven't said anything new, right? Everyone knows you need to talk to people. You need to figure out what that property is worth so you can actually write an offer in it. The biggest key that I found that was missing is people aren't held accountable, so they don't do it. They know they have to do it, but because they're not accountable, or maybe they're just accountable to themselves, they don't do the necessary actions.
Yeah.
So again, whether you do it in our challenge or if you're doing this on your own or with maybe a partner, have that partner hold you accountable, hold each other accountable.
Yeah.
I always tell people it's so easy to let yourself down, but it's a lot harder to let someone else down.
That
so
is true.
someone has to hold you accountable for, let's say, and it can be something so basic as making 5 calls today, right? It's just something that basic. Now, it's really easy for an investor who's done a lot of deals already to say yeah, of course, duh, make the calls. But someone who's starting out, that could be a huge thing, right? Just picking up that phone. And so, again, if you're just take that one little action. And yes, you may not know everything, but believe me, your confidence from the first call you make to the 5th call you make will be 100% different. Yeah. And it's just for making the call. And in that action alone, you will develop your script. You will develop what feels good, how you say or how do you approach it. Who are you? Are you an investor? Are you a buyer? Are you just someone in the neighborhood? And that all just comes to play, when you just start making those first 5 calls.
Absolutely.
And then from there, that's it. The next 5 calls, and then the next 5 calls.
And I think you told me one of the significant things about your challenge is that if somebody doesn't do what they have to do in week 1 or week 2 or week 3, at any point where they don't do what they're supposed to do that week, you
eliminated.
Yeah, you vote them off the investor island, right? They're out of the challenge.
Yeah. So again, we have to create consequences for people.
Yeah.
And we try to do it in a fun environment.
Yeah. Are you saying that people should take personal responsibility?
Yes.
Imagine that. It's a novel idea. All right.
It drives me crazy that people think that all you have to do is download some CD or listen to some, book and tape series, and they know it. You have to put this into action.
Right.
People think that you can close deals and make money, but you got to write offers. And it's like the biggest thing I see that doesn't occur. And so we created a framework to help push people along and doing it in a loving and elimination kind of way.
Right.
And that, believe it or not, that, I believe in positive reinforcement and negative reinforcement. And sometimes that negative reinforcement will get you off your butt.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. So we talked about making calls, evaluating deals, and making offers. And are those like each kind of a week by week? I mean, do you have effectively about 8 weeks of...
yes.
Okay.
So every week, obviously, we add another layer. And so, again, a lot of people that come and play the challenge, they already know a lot of this information. They've already taken a class that showed them how to evaluate. Again, the biggest thing that we do is we give them a framework to remain accountable, where they constantly have to be in action. And in this process, they say it takes 21 days to develop a habit. So guess what? In 60 days, you can develop quite a few really, really good habits. Yeah. And all it takes, just like anything, like working out or something, the first few times, the first week, it's going to be tough. But once you're there, and once you're accustomed to doing certain actions, it becomes a lot easier. So again, in the challenge, or if you were just out there, start making your habits. Create the habits, the good habits. writing an offer a day, speaking to 5 realtors or investors or sellers a day.
Yeah.
I mean, it's such a simple thing, and people either refuse to do it or they won't do it and then expect to make money.
Yeah, I found that it's a lot easier to kind of do those things if you do it in small bites, like you're saying. It's like if somebody said make 5 phone calls, well, just get it out of the way in the next half hour. Just get it over with.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's just helpful for people to kind of schedule it. Like, hey, from this time to this time every day or every other day, I have that time kind of blocked off to do these things. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think what's important to say here is that whether you're doing this full time, or let's say if you had a full-time job, you can still schedule accordingly if it's like a certain block of time in the morning or a certain block of time when you get off work, or you can create a habit just by doing this on Saturday and Sunday too. If you get in that habit, I think it's really, it's a lot. It's like brushing your teeth, right? You don't even think about it. You just do it. Like for me, and like we call them warriors that go through our program. I want it to be so uncomfortable that they can't go to bed until they've actually written an offer that day.
Yeah.
Offers. I heard this from Tony Alvarez. He's like, offers are like oxygen to real estate investors. You need to write an offer because you can't expect to close a deal if you don't write any offers.
Right. So so after you start making offers, gets up to week 3. Then where do we go from there?
Okay, so there's a lot of components that obviously make a good real estate investor. So after that, things will start popping. The objections start coming up. Agents maybe don't want to write their lowball offers. So at this point, we start talking about creating your relationships with agents, handling objections that you're getting. And we also throw this component because obviously the market changes all the time. So a huge component of our challenge right now is, we are trying to make them whole, well-rounded investors. So we also have a component where we talk about seller financing and doing creative things. So you don't have to be just that lowball cash offer investor.
Yeah.
You can also be a full price creative finance or seller finance investor. So we train, or we give them the tools to think in a creative way as well. Because coming up, sticking numbers in a spreadsheet, coming up with a cash offer is easy.
Yeah.
But actually coming up with something creative that creates a win-win situation or really is appropriate for, people have different reasons for selling houses. Yeah. So we try to give them another tool on top of just coming up with a cash offer to help them try to close deals.
All right. Okay.
And I find that, right now in this market, it's probably very helpful because I think a lot of deals are coming also direct from sellers, not just the MLS. So it's pretty exciting.
Right. Yeah, it's interesting.
And then after that, I'm sorry. So,
I was going to say it's interesting that in some markets, because I've bought hundreds of houses, I've bought really, I think 3 or 4 off the MLS. Like we just don't even look. I mean, and there was a period where we put in a ton of offers off the MLS, but this just hasn't been one of those markets, the Dallas-Fort Worth area where I operate, where the MLS has ever been even a tool that we hardly use. But I know it's different in different parts of the country, and there are some places where you still can buy off the MLS. But yeah, I can appreciate that. I think that's an important thing to be successful as a real estate investor, is to kind of use the book that, gosh, I'm going to date myself here, that's like really old at this point, Who Moved My Cheese? I mean, as real estate investors, your cheese gets moved all the time, right? You've got to be prepared to just shift and ebb and flow as markets change.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Good point.
Yeah. So tell us some more about this program. As kind of people progress, then where do you end up at after the 60 days?
So, again, our goal is to have them. Okay, so at this point as well is, we try to iterate that they don't have to do this alone, right? I know a lot of people get into this real estate thing as a lone ranger, or they may have their spouse that might be excited about it, or at one point they might have their spouse not be excited about it, and now they're a lone ranger, and different things happen, and part of being in this challenge, where this little microcosm of 60 days of trying to get, I don't want to say try, we don't say try in the challenge, we say doing real estate. At this point, deals, we want deals to be popping, or they're getting counter offers, or they're able to negotiate. So this is now where they can start practicing their negotiating skills. And I think what's really great about giving yourself like a 60-day framework, for example, is you can actually get to the end of a deal. When you're sitting in class, let's say over a weekend, not that it makes the class bad or anything, but you don't ever get to that point. And what I also know is when you're in the action, of doing stuff, your questions are a lot better because the real issues come up.
Right.
And so in the 60-day framework, if someone was playing the challenge, our goal is for them to actually be in a closing so they can learn all that aspect of the real estate transaction. Because whoever talks about escrow and how title works and how do you get your assignment fee, if you wholesale it, how do you protect yourself? And so our goal is to actually get you to that point so you experience something so you can say you fully closed your first deal. And so I think that's really important. Again, the best learning, I can sit there and tell people in front of class all day, this is how it works, but until they're actually in it, the understanding is like leaps and bounds if they're actually in a deal and applying it.
I think, again, I think once somebody has seen a deal come full circle from I'm thinking about doing it to I'm making a deposit in my account or putting money in my pocket, the whole world changes, because then you believe it at that point. Or it was so hard for you, or you didn't enjoy it, and therefore you at least learned what not to do or what you don't want to do. But I think it kind of takes that full cycle of getting a deal done for it to really click with a lot of people.
Yeah, definitely. And, I also, one thing I encourage people, again, is this can be a lonely business, like you said, Mike.
Yeah.
And, I tell people that you don't have to know everything. I think a lot of things that stop people from doing the business is because they feel like they need to take another class or they need to know a little bit more before they can have the conversation.
Right.
And so we encourage, I learned this from Jimmy Napier, dumb gets paid. It's okay to not know everything, and sometimes when you're quiet, in the silence, if you ask for help, because you don't know, you actually learn more. And so the other big component that we also encourage is to be on a team and surround yourself with people that are doing the same thing as you.
Yep.
And to ask for help. A lot of people are scared to ask for help, or they get into these coaching programs for 6 months where their coaches are available, and how often do they call? So you have to ask for help. It's okay.
Yeah.
You don't have to be alone.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I have people ask me all the time is they know I've done a lot of deals. Well, what did you do when this happened to you? And it's very common that, well, that's never happened to me, but here's what I would do. I think it's important to be comfortable with knowing that you're never going to know all the answers, but just some level of confidence that the people who can get you the answers, or you can figure it out.
So critical.
Yeah.
And having communities like yourself, where you have an online platform where people that you can communicate, where you can get answers 24/7 a day. That's pretty awesome, right?
Yeah.
So we as investors, we can take advantage of that.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, Iris, if folks wanted to learn more about your club, I know it's Southern California based, but you do they have to be in Southern California to attend an event? But I know you have a number of things online as well. Do they have to be physical in your?
Well, again, one of the big things that we promote is that you have to show up.
Okay.
And so, yes, right now the way our program is set up, and maybe Mike can give me some ideas on how we can take this elsewhere, but yes, this is live. This is not a webinar. This is not a conference call. Your butt has to be in that seat every Monday night. And we do really fun things if you're actually in the program and if you're in the area and stuff like that and you want to join. But we do some pretty amazing things, like we go on field trips and things like that. We'll go to the county courthouse and you can see how NODs actually are, or how to pull leads for the NODs. Not that you have to do it physically these days because there's so many services, but I think it's really important to understand the background of everything and why certain things happen. Or we go to trustee sales, we go look for probate leads at the actual probate courthouse. So really fun hands-on things that kind of like the background of stuff that most people you don't get normally in
Right.
You don't have time to do things like that. But we have the luxury of 60 days of being like a really close-knit team and really supporting one another. And so, yes, it is live. You have to be there on Monday nights. And we do have a conference call on Thursdays. And so, yeah, it's very, and you have to be held accountable. So.
Right. Well, if folks want to learn more about some of the things you have going on, some of the things we talked about today, where should they go?
Awesome. It's investclubforwomen.com. Actually, I think I have something.
You really have a sign right there, too.
investclubforwomen.com.
Okay.
Yeah, come join us. And
we'll put the...
if you come and let us know that you saw us at Flip Nerd, we'll let you in for free.
Oh, my goodness.
For all the Flip Nerd guests.
Yeah. Well,
check us out.
Iris, hey, thanks so much for joining us. I definitely appreciate it. And thanks for all the great work you do for the investor community and obviously for women. I think, I'm sure that you've changed a lot of lives through what you're doing. So that's fantastic.
Thank you. I really appreciate being here.
Yeah.
Thanks, Mike.
Have a great day.
You too.
Bye-bye. Are you a member of FlipNerd.com, the most robust real estate investing platform in existence, where you can find off-market wholesale deals and great vendors literally in your market? You can get access to advice from experts and learn about local clubs and events right in your backyard. If not, please visit FlipNerd.com and register for a free account. You can register in less than a minute. It's pretty much the coolest site that's ever existed in the real estate investing industry. So get on over to FlipNerd.com.